Hello. So I do a lot of buying and selling of guitar pedals in Facebook Market or whatever market there is. And just this week, I bought three pedals from the same person. And when I get home, this one in particular did not work. It did not turn on. It did not make any sound at all. So completely dead. Um, and I reach out to the person, right? And he's like, all sales are final, which I thought very, very rude. I never had this type of experience before. But, it made me think that there is the need to kind of protect yourself a little bit when you go buy, but as well buying as well as selling. Um, so today I want to talk about a little bit how a few ideas on how to test. Essentially, the way to be safer is to test them at the moment you buy. Again, I've bought dozens and sold dozens of pedals. I actually never had anyone test the pedals I sell. I never actually tested the ones I bought. I know there has been always a risk, but honestly, most of the people should be fairly honest. And in fact, I've had an experience where one time I get home, I try it, and the light didn't work, but the sound worked. I reach out to this person, and he says, "Hey, oh, I'm so sorry. Let's revert it. I'll give you the money back, and you can just give me the pedal." And I thought that was very nice, and he was very kind, to the point that I actually said, "You know what? Don't worry about it. I actually like the sound. Yes, it's not ideal that the light it does not turn on, but you know what? You've been so nice, even that I'm gonna keep it." So anyway, not everyone, unfortunately, out there is like that. So, okay, so imagine you are buying this pedal, right? So the first and simpler way of testing it out is just with a 9-volt battery. There are some little adapters that you connect just to the top of the battery, and essentially they simulate exactly what would be a power source. Like when you are at home with your power, this is how it looks like. So you can essentially just connect it to it to try it out. Okay, so I'll do that. Now, there's pedals that you need to that when you just connect a power source, they don't work. So be aware of that, and that's actually expected. It's to avoid draining external power. So you typically need a cable connected to the input or output. I would try both. I think the input is more common, but when you do that, see that the light turns on. Okay, so I think this simple setup is probably it would cover 90% of the problems you might have, just bringing these two together. Okay, and also it's very light. But you can, there's a few more steps you can do actually to test more things of that pedal. So when you have a pedal like this, you can simulate. You can bring your own guitar, or you can simulate your own guitar by bringing a looper. You just record a riff on it, right? You plug it into input. And then that sound will go through the pedal. You also have to check the output, right? So ideally, you have to find a way of testing it out. So, for example, one idea is an IR pedal, a pedal that has an IR, which ideally you can connect with a headphone out. So this is one idea. This is a pedal I already have, and that's why I'm showing it, but there are others. There are, for example, pedals like the SansAmp that have that they are not exactly IR, but they kind of have an old way of simulating that, and so you can also use one of those. You could also bring potentially a mini battery-powered amplifier, some of those small ones like a mini Katana or what's it called, the Black Star Fly, I think they're called. So there's different options you can bring. Once you connect it, I think there's a few things then maybe to pay attention to. So one is, of course, whether the switch feels healthy, or if it feels that it's loose or about to break, or does it does the right thing when you connect it every time, or only 1 in 5 actually turn it on and off. Things like that could indicate that the switch is not so healthy. The other ones is to move the pots around and see first that when you move them around, you will hear the sound changing. Also check for noises in the pots, potentially. I think they're more common in guitars, potentially, that problem, but it's something worth checking. Yeah, so those are a couple of things to be aware of. So the other thing is potentially the money. So once you check and it's all good and you want to pay, there's a couple of options. I think very common is to exchange money. But if you do with the digital way, whether it be PayPal, whether it be Venmo, Zelle, depends on the country you are. Also, there will be different options, and that ones typically gives you a little bit more protection, because then you can go to the bank and say, hey, I want to revert this. I was sold something that is not working, so we need to revert that operation. While when you do it cash, typically you'll have less protection. The other important thing is actually this testing setup. See that it protects you both as a buyer, but as well as a seller, because at the time of the sell, you can actually show that your pedal was working fine. So it's a way that I will start to do it both as a buyer as well as a seller of pedals. I want to show that it all works and does have some sound. And yeah, and I hope this is useful. I hope this, if you have other ideas on testing them in ways that you think work, please share. Yeah. Thank you.